Business advice, well, it depends on what business you're in. I mean, if you're a butcher, it's not going to do a great thing to listen to a photographer's advice. And I don't think it's a great idea to take advice from people who are financially driven exclusively. I see a lot of people who are like tough as nails. They have TV shows. They're busting people's balls. I don't know that I want to really learn my core values or strategies from people like that. In my mind, that time is passing, and people are looking for a more soulful approach on how to generate wealth. If you're asking advice from a stranger who is successful, I think it's worthwhile thinking about how you connect with them and not just what they've achieved, but how they think. I had this interesting experience. Part of my business life, I worked in a basement on the south side of Chicago, kind of in a tough neighborhood. It wasn't pretty, but it was very helpful to me. That was 10 years underground. I would say that not anybody was asking for my advice at that point. Then fast forward many years, I had just bought a very beautiful house, and there was a young man that came out to the property to put the flags in for gas lines. He was super great, turned out to be an artist, and when he found out I was an artist, I said, can I get you a sandwich or something for the road? He's like, no, I can buy a sandwich. He said, but what I would like is some advice. And I was like, okay, about what? And he points at the house. He's like, well, about this. How do you do this as an artist? And I caught me so off guard because people hadn't asked advice from me before, and I gave some sort of thing that probably wasn't too helpful to him about tenacity and being strong and not giving up. But it really wasn't what I would call wisdom. I think the whole point of it is that I was never in a position to give advice, and now all of a sudden it was the house behind me that was giving me the credibility for advice. I found it very unusual. I didn't think I was in a position to give advice, but really I found that it depends on who's asking. But what I've learned is that if somebody is measuring or looking at something that I had that represents a success, and they're looking at that and they're like, well, how do I do that? There's certain general topics I could talk about, but really it's been millions of micro decisions along the way over the years. And actually the people that came in and out of my life are not the ones that are coming in and out of your life. So I don't know that my map is going to be your map. I just think there's general attitudes that can be discussed, but I don't have a recipe to pass on like a chef has a recipe. It's just not that straightforward for me. To me, if someone's asking advice, I think that it's really important to ask specific advice. Like, how do you buy a used car? How do you succeed in business? It surprises me that most entrepreneurial advice I've come across tends to be financially oriented. And I don't think it's a great idea to take advice from people who are financially driven exclusively. I see a lot of people who are like tough as nails. They have TV shows. They're busting people's balls. I don't know that I want to really learn my core values or strategies from people like that. In my mind, that time is passing, and people are looking for a more soulful approach on how to generate wealth. I have mentors, and I really wanted advice from them. More advice actually than I was receiving. And what I realized, they could have been giving advice, but I wasn't listening to it because it wasn't strategic enough. It was very general. And ultimately, as I look back at the years of these mentors that influenced me, it was really just their entire life that became the advice, that became the role model for me. It was more like just being at a very, very long 20-year dinner. And I got to observe everybody in all sorts of circumstances. It wasn't some pretense of, please tell me how to, I must get to Mars, how do I do it? It was about, I looked at their lives, I admired certain things about them, and they also told me different things that they wish they hadn't done. And that turned out to be some of the best advice ever. Is what not to do was quite valuable.